What is going on, guys? My name is PUREXNOBLE. Welcome to another video. Now this video is going to be talking about what is the best attachment to use for your Black Ops 6 weapons, specifically for your assault rifles. Now I know in the previous Call of Duties with MW3 and MW2 they combined all the attachments that was used as an option for your weapon builds, but now with Black Ops 6, with the change in the weapons, with the change in the overall game mechanics in certain sections, the attachment list has dramatically reduced. We're so used to seeing at least 4 to 5 variable options when it comes to the attachments, but with the Black Ops 6 weapons, when you look at each attachment category, if you're only filtering out the attachments that are a good possibility that will help you in your gun builds, you're very limited. And now I'm going to be narrowing it down even further to which is the best attachment that you should use when making your gun builds. Now just to give you a little bit more context and where I'm coming from when I think of good attachments is my specific playstyle. So my specific playstyle, I'm not too much of like, minus out the movement and it's all about the aim and recoil control, or I'm not the either opposite either, where I'm going to sacrifice all recoil control because I'm a movement demon. And this also ties into playstyle of Warzone and multiplayer as well. So like for example in Warzone there are situations where I would love to solo push teams. I'm a very sweaty player. I like to get into gunfights quick, so that's why I need to rely on certain stats that is going to push for movement. But there are times where I want to switch gears. I want to play for position, I want to play for placement, so that way if I have to lock into a key position on the map and I can't move, that's where I need to rely on certain recoil control stats, because that's where movement is going to be lessened. I just needed to add that additional clarification because there are millions of players out there. Everyone has different play styles, and a lot of people are going to see the video and be like, okay, well, why did you choose that attachment over this? It looks like you're only prioritizing aim over movement, or vice versa. You're only thinking about movement and not about aim. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to thank you guys so much. We're currently sitting at 1138 subs and we're at 3,464 public watch hours compared to our goal of 4,000. Now, the main goal is to monetize the channel, and the only way to do that is to hit the 4,000 public watch hours. And the only way that I can actually do that is by creating engaging content and entertaining content that you guys want to watch. So like I always say in my videos, if you want to hashtag bring back honest gaming, please drop a video a like, drop a video a sub, and I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Anyways, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so for the gun example that we're going to be using today is going to be the XM4. This is a very common assault rifle that people are using, and what's really good about the assault rifles and SMGs and basically any weapon category is that when it comes to that specific category, we're not looking at 10 to 15 different attachments for each section. It's been very simplified, but because it's been very simplified, we need to know which one is actually going to give us the most benefit when it comes to making our builds. Alright, so starting with our optic, of course, optic is your preference of choice. I'm more of a red dot guy, so usually the Kepler Microflex is something that most players are going to use, and I personally use it as well. If you want to go with the scope, if you want to go with holoscopes, whatever your preference is, I say use whatever scope that you can use that's going to help you be more comfortable with hitting your shots and having better aim. If it's some weird odd scope that no one ever uses but it helps you land 90% of your shots, hey, use that scope, no judgment there. So starting with the muzzle category, right? For muzzle, my option is going to be the compensator, where it gives me the most vertical recoil control. Reason why is because when you look at the other attachments, now suppressor, mind you, if this is specifically for Warzone, or if you just want to stay under the radar, so this is an option like I said, but you're sacrificing a lot of good stats when it comes to not being suppressed. Like I said, if you look at compensator, if you switch it, right, going to compensator, you're looking at an increase of 35% vertical recoil control and 33% recoil gun kick. Now, me being a mouse and keyboard player, and I'm sure other mouse and keyboard players understand, the more that you can control gun kick, the less visual recoil that you're going to have, aka it's going to be easier for you to track your targets and land your shots. The reason why I don't go with muzzle brake or the ported compensator is because a lot of these give first shot recoil control and kick reset speed, and then ported compensator, first shot recoil control and less vertical recoil control. Now, to be honest, the first shot recoil control, I don't personally find a benefit in that, because it's not about the first shot that you make, it's about the continued shots that you're able to make after the fact. This is what we call tracing, right? What's the point of having a super accurate first shot if the rest of your shots is not going to be controlled and it's going to be harder to aim? So you know what, I recommend sacrifice the first shot recoil control, and then for the muzzle brake, the kick reset speed, I would say this is an option if you need to let go of your firing button. You know, for whatever reason, if you need to let go of your firing button, that's what the kick reset speed for, is when you let go, the recoil control goes back down and you are able to hit your shots again. The reason why I choose the compensator being the ultimate one is it gives me the most vertical recoil control. Now, this is what I need when it comes to tracing, because with horizontal recoil control, it's very easy to control. You're either moving left and right or you're strafing with the player that you're trying to trace. The main thing that's hard to do is while you're tracing and controlling your horizontal recoil control, you're pulling down on the sticks or you're pulling down on the mouse to control your vertical recoil control. Now, mind you, I know the recoil in Call of Duty in general is very easy to control, but if there's stats that can help you control it even better, and that's going to land more of your shots, hey, that's the main goal. Now, moving on to the barrels, right? We have the gain twist, long barrel, reinforced barrel, short barrel, CHF barrel. Now, let's go from bottom to top and why I say overall the gain twist barrel is going to be my go-to option. Now, I don't know if it's a skill issue, but I personally don't find any benefit using the CHF barrel because it's very hard to hit your headies when you have a huge dip in your vertical recoil control and recoil gun kick. Look at this, you're looking at 45% increase in vertical and 44% increase in recoil gun kick. Now, gun kick, like I said, as a mouse and keyboard player, more visual recoil, the harder it is for me to land my shots. That's why my go-to is not the CHF barrel, even though it gives the benefit of a headshot multiplier. And then I'm sure a lot of movement demons are gonna enjoy the short barrel because it increases their overall mobility. Now, if you're all about movement, hey, great, use the short barrel. But the thing is, when you choose the short barrel, you're losing out on such other good benefits, like the long barrel has damage range, gain twist has bullet velocity, reinforced barrel has the combination of both damage range and bullet velocity. Now, if you're playing in multiplayer, I could see the short barrel being very good because multiplayer is very fast paced. You know, it's a very quick time to kill. That's why I would say mobility is better than aim. Now, out of all the barrels, I still choose the gain twist barrel because this is the one that gives me the most bullet velocity. Now, the reason why I choose bullet velocity over damage range is because a lot of the Warzone fights that I take personally is about 50 meters and below. I don't engage in long range battles. If I do that, I'm using a sniper. But because it's 50 meters and below, whether you use a long barrel or not, which increases the damage range, the same amount of shots is going to take down an enemy. What I mean by that is whether you use the gain twist barrel or the long barrel, it's still going to take 5 shots to the chest to down the enemy. Now, if I had to choose between the two, right, between having damage range and bullet velocity, the reason why I'm going to choose bullet velocity almost all the time is because it requires me to trace less or lead my shots when shooting long range targets. Now, moving on to the underbarrel attachments, we got the vertical, lightweight, marksman, precision, and ranger foregrip. Now, if you look, a lot of these is more so aim idle sway, aim downside speed, horizontal recoil control. You're not looking at any vertical recoil control for this. So if you look, I would say I want to put all my stats in horizontal recoil control. The reason why I put less focus on getting other stats like aim idle sway, or I would say a combination of both where it's aim idle sway and horizontal recoil control, is because if you are actually aiming, if you are practicing your aiming, the aim idle sway is whether you have it or not, you're still going to hit your shots regardless. So if that's the case, if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather double or triple stack on horizontal recoil control, because with more horizontal recoil control, you know, the less that you'd have to strafe left and right to counter it. So we already have the muzzle that's controlling vertical recoil control. Now you're going to have the underbarrel that's going to control your horizontal. You're getting both benefits and you're focusing strongly on those stats. That way, the amount of adjusting that you need to do for both types of recoil has minimized down to almost 0. And then when it comes to your magazine attachments, honestly, it goes back to preference. I would, you know, if we're going to strictly talk about multiplayer, I would want to stay away from your fast mags, and I would say your extended mag 3s, because the amount of slowdown that you're going to get with sprint to fire and aim down sight speed is atrocious. Now, if you're the type of player that always plays power positions and you are not a movement player at all, but you do need that long mag because, say, you know, you have a harder time hitting your shots and you need the extra bullets, fine, you know, that's totally fine. Just know you are at a very slow disadvantage when it comes to a movement player getting up close to you. Like, you better hit that movement demon before they ever get close to you, because once they're that close, I would say, 10 meters and short, you are not going to have the mobility that you're going to need to counter that, especially if you're running scopes rather than a red dot, because at least with a red dot, when they get close, you have the close range benefit of a red dot. If it's a scope, it's going to be too close for you to trace. So my personal preference, because I enjoy the movement and I also want to have a long extended mag rather than the stock mag, I just go with the extended mag one. All right, so moving on to rear grips, my choice for the rear grip is going to be the close quarter combat grip. Now this one is a combination of both sprint to fire speed and gives you an additional speed for mobility. Like I said, I'm a very mobile player. I try to rely 50% on aim, 50% on movement. Now the reason why I want this is because your dive to fire speed or slide to fire speed and sprint to fire speed helps so much when you're in those close range engagement fights, especially if you're sliding left and right, you're sliding around the corners and you are applying the movement. This helps you get from hip to fire rate a lot more faster. There is no point in trying to triple stack on aim down sight speed if you can't get your gun from hip to fire fast enough. So in my opinion, the options for these grips, I would say narrows it down to two. We got the assault grip and the CQB grip. This is preference. If you want that additional mobility, I would say go with the CQB grip. If you want more of that sprint to fire, of course, go with the assault grip. Now moving on to the stock attachments. Now this is a bit controversial. I would say it narrows it down to the buffer weight stock or the light stock. Now for me, I chose the light stock, which gives me hip fire movement speed, and strafing movement speed. The reason being is because with the XM4, honestly, the recoil is very easy to control, and I already have attachments that are on the gun that's going to help with that recoil control. I want attachments on the gun that's going to help with my movement. Now a lot of people already are going to choose the buffer weight stock, which is the new advanced weapon attachments that Black Ops 6 is starting to do, that took in place of the the aftermarket parts that they had in MW3. Because the buffer weight stock attachment ain't that bad, honestly, because look how much recoil control it gives. 31% gun kick control, 60% horizontal recoil control, and 30% vertical recoil control. You're only sacrificing your aim down sight speed slightly by about 23%, and then of course your overall movement. But the amount of control that it gives for recoil is astronomical. But remember guys, recoil is very easy to control in Call of Duty, so if you can already practice the regular recoil control, you can sacrifice the buffer weight stock attachment and focus on more of your movement speed. That way with your close range engagements, you're not being put on skate by movement demons that are running circles around you. You're actually able to keep up with them. Or you might be a movement demon yourself. Use the light stock attachment. And then moving on to the laser attachments, honestly, I feel like the lasers are very underpowered in Black Ops 6 weapons, but if I had to choose, I would either go with the fast motion laser or the target laser, just because fast motion laser is going to give me additional movement that I want, or if I want to sacrifice the movement, I'm going to go with target laser. That's going to have my aim auto sway delay and have a more steadiness when aim walking. Now moving on to the last weapon attachments, we are looking at fire mods. I'd say it narrows it down to two. You're either going to go with the 556 NATO overpressured for additional bullet velocity, or you're going to go recoil springs for additional recoil control. Now, like I said, it comes down to preference. I have other attachments that's going to help with movement, and I have other attachments that's going to help with recoil control. Now with this one, the reason why I go recoil control over bullet velocity is because I know personally for my skill, I can trace better, or I can lead my shots accurately where they're gonna land. So whether I have low bullet velocity or high bullet velocity, I'm always gonna land my shots just because I know how to gauge my targets. So with that being said, that's why I'd rather sacrifice bullet velocity and add more recoil control for my gun instead. And that sums it up, guys, for all the attachments that I would use for each weapon attachment category. So this is an example of one of my Warzone builds that I use is the XM4. We got the optic is the Kepler Microflex. For the muzzle, it's the compensator. For the barrel, it's the gain twist barrel. We got the vertical foregrip, the extended mag 1, the CQB grip, the light stock, and the recoil springs. But hey, that's my opinion on what I think is going to be a good option for each weapon attachment category for the assault rifles. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any preference or input that you want to add to the video, feel free to do so. If you have your own personal builds that you think would be good to use, hey, drop it in the comments below. I would love to see it. But if anything, guys, thank you so much. And again, if you want to bring back honest gaming, please drop a like to the video, drop us up to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Noble out.